If you've been scrolling through endless listings of outdoor griddles, reading specs that all sound the same, and still feel a little stuck about which one actually makes sense for your backyard kitchen, this review is here to clear that up. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the last few weeks watching a handful of people set up their outdoor cooking stations, reading the handful of reviews that exist, and talking to a couple of home chef friends who already own built-in models, so I think I can give you a realistic picture of what to expect from the Bull 30-inch built-in commercial griddle propane version. First off, the biggest hesitation most people have with a built-in griddle is the commitment. It's not a portable tabletop you can toss on a patio and move around. It's a 30-inch slab that bolts into a countertop, needs a dedicated propane line, and sits there for the long haul. That means you have to be pretty sure you'll actually use it enough to justify the cost, the installation effort, and the space it takes up. The risk of ending up with a pricey piece of metal that gathers dust is real, especially if you're just looking for a weekend-only grill. So before we jump into whether this Bull model lives up to its claims, let's talk about the category basics that matter in real life. When you're shopping for a built-in outdoor griddle, the things that separate a decent unit from a truly functional one are heat distribution, cooking surface size, durability under constant use, and how easy it is to integrate into an existing outdoor kitchen layout. A good griddle should hit that sizzle temperature fast enough to give you a proper sear on a steak or a perfect crust on a pancake, but it also needs to stay steady so you're not constantly adjusting burners. Even heat is especially important when you're cooking a batch of burgers side by side. Hot spots can leave some undercooked while others are burnt. Heavy-duty construction matters because you'll be sliding spatulas, metal scrapers, and sometimes even cast iron skillets across the surface, and you don't want the plate to warp after a few seasons. Finally, the installation footprint matters. You need enough counter depth and a reliable propane supply. Otherwise, you'll end up with a fancy slab that you can't actually fire up. The Bull 30-inch griddle ticks a lot of those boxes on paper. At 30 inches wide, you have enough real estate to run a breakfast line for a family of 6 think pancakes, eggs, bacon, and sausage all cooking at once without having to shuffle pans. The high heat claim translates into a burner setup that can bring the cooking surface up to around 400,500 F in a matter of minutes, which is plenty for that restaurant-style sear on a steak or quick caramelization on vegetables. Users who have installed it report that the heat spreads evenly across the entire plate, which is a direct result of the heavy-duty steel construction they tout. Because the unit is built for commercial use, the surface stays flat even after months of heavy scraping, and the stainless steel finish resists the kind of rust you see on cheaper aluminum griddles after a rainy season. Now, the practical side of owning a 30-inch built-in. First, you need a propane connection that can handle the BTU demand. If you already have a propane line running to your grill, it's a simple matter of tapping in. If not, you'll either need a professional to run a new line or you'll have to use a large, refillable tank, which can be a hassle on busy weekends. The weight of the unit is another hidden trade-off. It's heavy enough that most DIYers will need at least 2 people to lift it into place, and the mounting brackets have to be anchored into solid countertop material, not just a thin slab. That's why I'd recommend budgeting for a professional installation unless you're comfortable with some serious carpentry. In terms of everyday usability, the griddle shines when you're feeding a crowd. I watched a backyard brunch where a couple of friends used the Bull to flip a dozen pancakes while simultaneously grilling sausage links and sautéing mushrooms. The whole thing stayed at a steady temperature, and they didn't have to keep adjusting the burners. For a family that loves weekend barbecues, the ability to cook multiple items at once without a lot of fiddling is a genuine time saver. It also means less cleanup on the grill itself. You can wipe the flat surface with a grill scraper and a little soapy water, and you won't have to deal with flare-ups that happen on open-flame grills. On the flip side, if your cooking routine is more one-hour Saturday morning pancakes, or once-a-month burger night, the Bull might feel like overkill. The upfront cost is higher than a portable propane griddle, and the installation effort adds to that total. Also, while the surface heats quickly, it does retain heat longer than a thinner grill plate, which means you have to be a bit more mindful about turning off the burners at the right moment to avoid